Okay, so this is the Stronghold Digital Mining Daily Update. Today's Thursday, September 21st, 2023. So yesterday I asked the question, why can't Stronghold Digital Mining take the 25 megawatts of end-to-end data center equipment, right, of data center infrastructure that we already own? Why can't we simply house it or like essentially assemble it and use it in-house? Why are we looking for a third site? So I read your comments, and one in particular kind of jumped out. And I want to thank Matt. And no, this is not Matt, our chief financial officer. This is Matt, a friend of the channel, who pointed out that, and Matt, I'm going to paraphrase this a little bit, that, like if we were to go above potentially an 80% utilization threshold insofar as our electricity usage, it could create some problems at the data centers. And again, I'm paraphrasing that a bit. Just read the comments to yesterday's video, to yesterday's broadcast, and you'll get a better sense of what Matt was talking about. So I did some additional homework late last night, and I rediscovered a 3-minute segment of our Q4 2022 full year 2022 investor presentation from March of 2023 this year. So let's go ahead and play that short. It's about a 3-minute segment. It's an analyst asking a question regarding these 25 megawatts. And we're going to hear Greg, our chief executive officer, give a little bit of context and color as to what's going on with those 25 megawatts. And I think it helps inform the answer to the question. So let's go ahead and pull up that clip, please.
Fair enough. Matt mentioned an additional 25 megawatts. Is that at Panther? Complete inventory ready to power or supply another 25 megawatts for mining?
Yeah. So I think what we're referencing there is we don't have room for that 25 megawatts at our existing data centers. So we're looking at a variety of options as to where to put those megawatts. So the fully funded part is we have the transformers, the containers, the switchgear. Sort of it would be a small amount of capex to be able to install that data center, given we have the capex heavy part of the cost already in our possession, unencumbered. But we are not ready yet to state where that 25 megawatts will come from.
Fair enough. I'm going to press you a little bit more on that, Greg. Your next 12 months forecast look favorable, right? From an adjusted EBITDA perspective, it seems to me that, given you've worked really hard to delever, how would you consider adding a third power plant, which I seem to remember was part of Stronghold's original plan, I think going back to 21.
No, we obviously right now, we have no interest in relevering the balance sheet, so do not put that in any model. We're going to stay.
I wasn't going to go there. I just wanted to know how you thought about it.
Yeah, and I think what I think you would expect is, there are a number of Bitcoin mining operations that got halfway done, that maybe entered into or got close to entering into power purchase agreements, even in our own neighborhood, which is probably where we want to stay. So to expect us to have that 25 megawatts at a site that we don't own, where we buy power, on maybe a subcontracted basis from either another miner or from a power producer. It's really it would be significant for us to go from 4 exahash to 5. And so we're focused on that, but we're not going to buy another power plant to do it. We think there are opportunities in our neighborhood to plug that infrastructure in, and just buy the power. It'll probably cost us more than if we were to, make it ourselves, owning the plant, but that's not going to happen this year.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks for entertaining my questions. Appreciate it.
No, thank you.
Okay, so that provides, I think, a little bit more context, right, as to this 25 megawatts. So Greg mentioned, and here again, I'm going to paraphrase a little bit, that basically the 25 megawatts that we currently have of end-to-end, right, data center infrastructure doesn't fit in our existing data centers. So let's pull up two satellite images real quickly here. Let's pull up Panther Creek, please. Okay, so this is a satellite image of Panther Creek, and it would appear as if though, yes, there's not a lot of physical space on this yard. Let's now pull up, please, a recent satellite image of Scrubgrass. And here as well, it would seem as if though there's not a lot of physical space, at least none that's, easily available. Back to me, please. So, on the one hand, I'm still intellectually curious if this is specifically a physical space issue. Hey, we just don't have the physical space on site for this equipment. Or if, as Matt, again to be clear, not our chief financial officer, Matt, but rather a friend of this channel, Matt, as he mentioned in the comment section yesterday, it might have to do more with like the electrical space that we have available to us. So as it turns out, when you divide 130 megawatts, which would be our presumptive our current data center mining load, when you divide that by 165 megawatts, which is our total power plant output, so to speak, I believe the number is like 78%. So there's a functional sort of that's like a piece of evidence that I think is very interesting, because when Matt talks about Matt in the comments talks about, hey, you don't want to go above 80%. Well, gosh, yeah, it would seem as if though we're not going above 80%, right? Because we're kind of at that 80% threshold right now. Were we to add that 25 megawatts of data center capacity, that would take us up to about 155 megawatts. And then our like electrical usage, like our utilization rate, would be closer to 94%. So I'm still a little bit intellectually curious, just, for some definitiveness as to, hey, is it a matter of we need to create more physical space at the power plants to potentially house this equipment? I mean, to be clear, it seems like we're not, like under no circumstances, gonna, utilize this equipment in-house. At least that's not the impression that I think either one of us would get from re-listening, as we just did, right, to that short 3-minute segment of the Q4 2022 full year 2022 investor presentation, which was in March of this year. I mean, it seemed very emphatic that we're going to be going outside of our existing infrastructure, like our existing electrical infrastructure, to get this equipment set up and powered. So, yeah, I think that answers the question. I mean, I'm still, to some degree, though, as I said, I'm kind of curious, though. Is it a matter of the electrical space being the issue? Hey, we don't want to like overextend. See, because here's my thought process. Presumptively, when we choose to sell electricity to the grid, we're not selling the grid 80% of our electricity. I mean, if we've got Scrubgrass and Panther Creek going at full capacity, then presumably Scrubgrass is generating around 85 megawatts of electricity, and presumably Panther Creek is generating about 80 megawatts of electricity. And like 100% of that is going to the grid, not 80%. So I'm assuming. And given the fact that the grid itself is really, I mean, it's just kind of like, hey, the lights that I have on right now, right? All this equipment that I'm using is part of the PP&L zone in the PJM grid, of which Panther Creek is a part. So when Panther Creek is choosing to sell all its electricity to the PJM PP&L portion of the grid, I mean, it's not like it's, this is like electricity that I could potentially be using some of it. So why wouldn't, I don't know, why wouldn't the same rule apply that, hey, you could only go up to like 80%? So that's, I don't know. I think there's probably something to this 80% threshold. I mean, just only because we're at 78% right now, and we seem to be saying, hey, we're kind of like, there's no room. But on the other hand, I mean, we have talked a lot about how much space there is at Scrubgrass. I mean, certainly Panther Creek, yeah, the footprint's a little bit smaller. I think we'd be talking about 20 or so strong boxes. So yeah, I mean, you'd have to clear out some more space. And, again, these would be some logistical issues. So anyway, I confess that I tend to obsess over details like this, mainly because I'm just intellectually curious, but also because there's a part of me that thinks, as I alluded to yesterday, that it might be in our best interest to have our own technicians, our own people managing all of this equipment. Not to necessarily, and hey, it does sound like to the extent we do go outside of our own facilities, the goal would be to have it be at a place in our backyard. Again, how you choose to define backyard, I'm going to assume that means, within driving distance, so that, I don't know, like presumably our tech people will visit the site to make sure that things are running smoothly. Remember, if we ultimately don't fill this with our own Bitcoin mining machines, right, machines that we own and operate ourselves, and instead choose to either completely or partially fill this 25 megawatts of end-to-end data center, infrastructure with Bitcoin mining equipment from, Win-Win Hosting Plus partners, we're going to want to make sure that, these machines are being, cared for properly, that everything is obviously in place to have the highest amount of uptime possible. So again, these are all things we're going to find out about very soon. And I am going to support wholeheartedly whatever decision has been made. I really am. This is just more me kind of just thinking out loud and articulating some thoughts that I've had with regard to, what the reality is of kind of like how much space we have at these plants, how much of our power plant output can realistically go to Bitcoin mining versus, what percentage should not go to Bitcoin mining, stuff like that. Anyway, I'm rambling a bit. Thank you so much, though, Matt, our friend of the channel, for commenting. If anyone else, hey, if you're stumbling upon this video for the first time and you're like, oh, hey, I think I know the answer, please feel free to add your thoughts. I'm very, very interested in this topic and just getting some additional clarity to the extent that's possible. So anyway, let's continue to be positive. We're going to get news about this third site probably really soon, either by the end of this quarter, or if not, probably towards the beginning of the fourth quarter. So that's coming up. So let's stay positive. Let's be great. And we will see each other again tomorrow.